Hi, I'm Gary Kim, and I'm here with Dean Bubley,
Hi there.
the founder and noted person behind Disruptive Analysis.
Thank you, Gary. Really pleased to be here. It's my
So-
first PTC.
Good, glad to have you. We worked hard to get you here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's, looking forward
So both of the sessions that you're working on are dealing with technologies that most people here might find a little esoteric. You want to explain that a little bit?
to it. Yeah, so I'm an unusual combination of technology analyst or telecoms analyst and a futurist. So I look at what's going on with wireless and fixed technologies, whether that's 5G or fiber, but I also spend time looking at what's next. So not necessarily telecoms technologies, but more general ones like artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, VR, AR, essentially all the cool stuff which is everyone's talking about. And I'm trying to understand what does that mean for telecom companies, whether they're fixed or mobile or international carriers, positive or negative, opportunities, internal, external, and so on.
So this is really hard for people to understand, but technologies like artificial intelligence actually are being used by most human beings today.
Yes.
How does that happen, and where are the applications?
Right, so the consumer side of AI sort of manifests in things most obviously around sort of voice assistants. So we have Amazon Alexa and Microsoft Cortana and Apple Siri and so on. And there's quite a large amount of machine learning that goes, but machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. The other thing that you will see is when you're asked on a website for a captcha, and you're which of these images have a bridge in them, you're helping train the machine to understand image recognition better, which then feeds into a whole bunch of other upcoming applications like self-driving cars, it could be customer service, chatbots. These are the consumer manifestations of AI. But there's also quite a lot of sort of industrial and ones which are internal and around process automation and ways to enhance productivity that are also impinging on not just the telecoms industry but businesses worldwide.
Now, most of the people here at the conference are involved with undersea communications or long-haul communications in some way. How about the networks? Are we going to be able to use machine learning and AI in the core of the networks?
Well, interestingly, yes, because one of the main areas that I see for the communications industry with AI is around improving operations. And to do that, first off, you will need to collect a lot of data. And there's a huge amount of operational data that are thrown off by networks, whether they're optical or wireless or core networks. And from that, you can start to deduce emergent patterns for things like fault prevention, spotting imminent signs of problems before they occur, for planning and optimization are all ways that if you start to apply really big data sets and you perform various analytical capabilities on them, tasks, you can actually assist with future investment. But I think one example that I heard was it was a Korean operator, and they said that they had built their national fiber network, and they'd instrumented it to collect data on how it's performing, not just things like uptime, but stuff like latencies and the sort of errors in transmission and so on. And when they gave there's something like 50 terabytes a day of data, and they gave that data to their machine learning system to sort of look for patterns in it, essentially. And they were rather surprised that as well as helping them improve the operations, they spotted some anomalies, and they realized they'd accidentally created a countrywide earthquake detector from the way that the fibers flex, which I thought was fascinating, particularly on the Korean Peninsula, that there are some seismic events which are important to track at the moment.
One of the things that has really struck me over the last 2 years, I think, is that what we're looking at is a complex of fundamental technologies, general purpose technologies, if you will, that collectively may be, to my way of thinking, bigger than the internet. I mean, is that incorrect or
bigger than the internet? I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen a few people recently say, "Oh, 5G is going to be more important than electricity," or I'm like, nah, not so sure. And, blockchain, another one, is really important. I'll talk about blockchain in a minute. I think AI is perhaps the one which is going to be one of the most all-embracing, because there's so many facets of it that impinge on how we run not just our lives but our businesses, our machines. That I think that there are a lot of unpredictables that come out of it, and it has the seeds of something that could be, you know, internet scale in importance. But sorry, go ahead.
That makes it. No, I was riding into the hotel with an Uber driver, and he asked me, "So, this conference you're going to, what are you going to be talking about?" And I said, "Oh, AI and a bunch of stuff." And he just lit up and said, "What's that going to mean for me?" And I said, "Uber's going to have driverless cars." And he said, "How long do you think this is going to take?" I said, "Well, I don't know. 10 years, 20 years?"
I mean, what you'll probably find is you'll find some places that go early on that, where, you know, it might be in cities either where they've got authoritarian authorities, if you like, that can tell human-driven cars to either restrict themselves to certain lanes, or where they can force things through. So it wouldn't surprise me if somewhere in the Middle East, or, you know, maybe a city-state like a Singapore or somewhere, has self-driving vehicles in a central business district. Or you might find self-driving trucks on special lanes on highways. Whereas if you take a sort of a complex, busy city with, you know, let's just say, lax control of traffic rules and unpredictable use of motorbikes and pedestrians. Cities like, I don't know, Marseille in southern France, they're hilly, there's sort of teenagers on motorbikes, there's, you know, cars parked anywhere. That's going to be harder. But I think that if you've got good sight lines, predictability, and the ability for the lawmakers to insist on stuff, then we might see, and a compliant insurance industry as well, then we might see things soon.
Okay, so if I've got this right, for the average telecom guy out there, what AI is going to mean is that I'm going to make your customer interactions more efficient, more effective, and painless for you. In the core of the network, I'm going to know that certain things are going to break, and oh, by the way, I fixed it for you, but I'm letting you know. So it's very, very practical.
I think so. I see there's 3 or 4 ways in which AI touches telecoms. One is the customer interaction, and there's various levels there. Everything from troubleshooting of problems, you know, fix my Wi-Fi router, you know, question, to churn prediction, to, you know, upsell and retention and so on. There's the internal operations side of telco, whether that's the network management, which can be optimized, or it could be things like, where is the best place to put my engineers with certain vehicles and certain skill sets and certain tools to maximize their productivity. So I think there's some sort of internal use cases, and pretty much all of the, if you like, the sort of BSS, OSS stack will have intelligence layers around it. And the third thing is around new services which operators can deliver to customers, whether those are consumers or businesses. So on the consumer side, it could just be something like a recommendations engine for their set-top box. It could be a security layer on top of Wi-Fi. For example, you might have security for your broadband, and you suddenly realize that across your 10 million subscribers, there's a million Internet of Things like toasters, right? Video cameras seem to be having an unusual interest in the website of the government of Bolivia, and you might think, well, hang on a sec, that's a bit unusual. Maybe we should sort of try and pull the plug on that class of devices, because there's a possibility they're a botnet. So there's sort of customer-facing stuff as well. The last one is perhaps more on the risk side, which is what happens when the customers have AI. Do I use AI to reduce my requirements for the network, or even negotiate for me? So maybe I phone up the customer retentions team, and I have my AI negotiate on my behalf for a better deal, and I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I'm going to churn unless you give me 20% discount. And they will have crowdsourced, you know, 1 million conversations with the customer service team, and they'll know how to get the best deal. So you might find there's poachers and gamekeepers here.
Good. Well, Dean, thank you very much. Fascinating. And thanks for watching PTC TV.
Thank you.